Tony, let's go back to that question you were about to ask.
Yeah. Detective, in your professional opinion, what do you think the motives were on these murders?
Well, the murders, I believe the motivation, the motive, the whatever you want to call it, I believe you're talking about a pedophile gone off the deep end. I think somebody that was a very simple individual. He likes young girls, and that's where that came from. The problem with the whole case is that this guy here is the type of guy that just fits in the community, and he rears his ugly head. You know, he's well known. He rears his ugly head. He commits these murders. Now we're in a position of where the OSBI has to bring someone to justice, and what they have to do is they have to put that on someone. Well, this person obviously is not the person that actually committed the murders that they have brought to trial. Obviously, because they didn't have any evidence. If they had done a thorough investigation, they would have had evidence. They would have, when they brought Gene Hart to trial, they would have had enough evidence, and it wouldn't have been an issue, and they would have went ahead and got their conviction and went on from there. But like one of the jurors said, he may have been involved in it. They may have had an accomplice, whatever, but they don't believe he did it. Evidence suggests there's 2 sets of footprints there. So that means that there's probably more to it than what is being alleged or being released.
Tony, you have to realize during the trial, they had so many obvious gaps in the story that they tried to put together that it didn't make any sense, common sense to the jury. The fact that they were trying to say it was only one man when the jury is saying no way, there had to be someone, at least someone else, if not another person, possibly 3 people all involved. Some of the other evidence that they presented, like one of the counselors about the evidence that the possessions that she had being in the sheriff's office 2 weeks later, that really upset the cart. It was just over and over and over mistakes that they've made. And I believe in a book that was written, Tent Number 8, that he outlines some of the mistakes and what the DA's office should have done, and possibly what the defense counsel should have done, some of the errors in the trial. So I think that was very productive as far as getting a lot of this information out to the public, and I wish him well on his book sales. So,
well, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, this is a bigger outfit that's going on here. So basically, when the murders happen, they're trying to cover up something, and that's why they want this to go away so fast.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the whole point, was to name Gene Hart alone. Like I said a while ago, for them to even consider someone else, it leaves the investigation open. But their thought was to put Gene Hart in the front. Gene Hart did it. He did it by himself. He's convicted. Case closed. But to their surprise, he was exonerated. And when you say exonerated, it doesn't mean that he wasn't guilty. It just means that they didn't present enough evidence to convince the jury that he did it, even though, like one of the jurors had said, that she felt like Gene Hart was involved, but he didn't do it by himself. And so when he was found not guilty, exonerated of the charges, then that left the case open. But Mike Wilkerson, here's another example of the bias by the OSBI. Mike Wilkerson, in his book, Someone Cry for the Children, which was very biased toward law enforcement, didn't bring up all the things that we're talking about right now. He states in the last paragraph that officially the case is still open, but unofficially it's closed. Well, he was announcing right then and there they're not going to do anything else. Even though it was officially open, they weren't going to investigate anymore. And in 35 years, I want to bring up this point, 35 going on 36 years now, since I first contacted every House of Representative and every senator and the governor's office, the OSBI, whoever might be a legitimate, honest law enforcement on that agency, the FBI, everyone I could think of, I sent letters and outlining all this and giving the names of what they were guilty of. Like the district attorney, Tom May, he was certainly getting his cut. And I contacted all those agencies and have done so, including the media, both paper and TV stations, and have gotten no one to ask any questions whatsoever. Like I said, the only person who did anything positively as far as an investigation was Sheriff Chuck Sharp, in that he wanted to nail Carl for all the murders that had taken place.
Well, John, aren't you afraid of lawsuit?
No, I've said during one of the interviews, I believe back in Tulsa during the first audition, I welcome any lawsuit, simply because that gives me power of subpoena to subpoena the FBI record, to subpoena Chuck Sharp, to subpoena Agent Mark Young, and get this information out there that there was a list of people who were involved in the drug running up there, that they were being investigated, but the only difference is, the only thing that had stopped them at that point was getting evidence of their involvement and bringing that before a grand jury or possibly the prosecutor's office to file charges, and that's never been done since then. And when I contacted the FBI and I even asked about, you know, the records as far as my involvement, they refused to give me any information whatsoever. But you have to understand, when you're contacting, especially like with the FBI, they're going, if there's nothing to it, they'll deny it. They have no qualms about denying it. But if there is something to it, or there is an active investigation going on, they're going to say no comment. And that's what I've gotten from the FBI since then. Even though I was the one involved in it, it's no comment. So they're backing off this whole thing. You have to understand, guys, that if this comes out in an open investigation, a lot of people are going to be sitting on death row, because the very people that protected Carl Myers and in some cases pointed him to kill, they're just as culpable or guilty of the actual killing if they had taken the knife or the instrument that they used to strangle them or whatever. They're just as guilty as the person who killed them. So those are things that they're trying to avoid. And it's going to be a black eye on the state of Oklahoma, because you're looking at several terms that have taken place from the first governor that was threatening to disband the OSBI up to the present governor, Mary Fallin, who have had this knowledge but have done nothing, because they realize that a lot of people would go to prison, a lot of people would be sitting on death row, a lot of people would be fired, a lot of families be destroyed, so many things. And you have to realize that, hell, people will, kill for a pack of cigarettes. You know, if provoked, what would they do for $1 million or 5 or 10 or $100 million? They're going to protect that at all costs, because that's what they base their whole life on, and the homes that they bought, and the boats that they bought, and whatever, they built up a certain lifestyle based on that income coming in from the drug running.
Well, I've got a question. After doing some research on the internet, it's come to my attention that they say that they've even found evidence of female DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not mentioned in any of the court documents, but it's mentioned in some of the investigation material. Outside of that, it looks to me like if they were to engage you in a lawsuit and you subpoena these people in, then there's going to have to be a whole lot of finger pointing. There will be people that have to cover their tracks, and sooner or later, all these institutions involved in this is going to be a train wreck.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is going to be bigger than Watergate. I mean, I've been saying that all along.
Well, there's
In Watergate, no one was killed. Some people were caught burglarizing the Democratic headquarters. Of course, the president being involved, that made it the big news story. But in this situation, we're talking about a hired killer killing little girls, men and women, one after the other, killing these 3 girls in the Camp Scott killings. This is going to be a lot bigger. It's going to bring down the state of Oklahoma. And they deserve to be brought down because they've been hiding behind their positions, their badges, their guns, their positions of authority, their offices. They've been hiding behind that. And even the ones that were not involved with it or were not directly involved with Carl Myers or the Camp Scott murders or any other, even though they weren't involved, they were guilty of negligence in that they didn't do anything about it and still haven't to this day. The one thing I did want to point out, as far as what you had mentioned about lawsuits, it's true. None of these people have even threatened to sue me. None of these people have even contacted me to threaten to sue me, simply because I've made it very clear, sue me. But I also, it just occurred to me while I was, during the break, not even the family members of these people that I've listed, even if they're dead or they're still alive, not even the family members have threatened to sue or had a lawyer contact me or whatever. And it seemed to me that possibly the family members knew what was going on also. I mean, as a layperson investigating this on my own, there is such evidence tampering, there is such fabrication of evidence, planning of evidence, there is such inaction on the part of local and state agencies. I mean, it literally looks to me like the Three Stooges conducted this investigation, this crime scene. well,
I've never seen such
the only
negligence in my
difference
life.
between the Three Stooges was that there were probably about 33 Stooges involved. You know, if you could have that many people coming together to be so stupid.
Well, you're absolutely right, John. It's just it's really a train wreck. But see, for example, under open records request, you fill out a request. I want a copy of the report. Well, they're saying, oh, well, it's an open case. They're hiding behind that so they can avoid release.
They're using every legal means
They're using everything they can. For example, or they could say, well, this is a sexual violence, sexual abuse case, whatever. We can't release it because they're juveniles. They could hide behind all these different facets of legalities. However, the fact remains that if no one can get the reports to see what has been done and what hasn't been done, and see the items of evidence, a list of evidence, those items, if no one can see those, then everything goes along just like it's always been.
They're using every legal loophole and means to thwart any forward progress of the investigation.
My whole thing is that, for them, let's be transparent. You want a copy of the report? Here's a copy of the report. If you've got nothing to hide, there shouldn't be a problem.
Or be redacted.
Or redact the names out, but leave in the facts. Okay? A lot of times that's what happens when you request a report like that. They redact the names, the addresses of the juveniles. That's fine. Okay? But provided if someone asks for it. It's your duty as a law enforcement official. If a case is open, fine, investigate. If you're getting information, investigate. If you're not getting information and you leave it open, that's one thing. Go ahead and close it because you can't do anything else with it. Okay? After all of this evidence, these 200 pieces of evidence was analyzed, there should have been a report out that says, okay, item number 1, nothing found. Item 2, nothing found, what have you.
Or inconclusive or whatever.
Non-conclusive. Or item number 47, we got a DNA match on that with somebody. Right now, the database is so large for DNA, there's a real high chance, a real high probability that some of the DNA that was taken off some of these items could match what they have.
That brings up an interesting point in that back, I believe it was 1986, that Oklahoma passed a law that all felons, whether they were incarcerated or not, that DNA be taken from them so that they could put it in a database. That way, if they got out of prison and they committed another crime, they could automatically link it up simply because they were already in the system. At this point, I've not had any word whatsoever that they ever did that with Carl Myers, even though he was in prison twice during this time period that DNA was taken. And if they wanted to shut me up, probably a real good way to do that was contact me back and say, well, we've done the comparisons and Carl Myers' DNA was not a match. But they haven't even done that. They've allowed this to go on and on and on. But by doing that, it'd have to be a record of that, which includes the person issuing it, the public relation officer, her knowledge of it, the agents that were involved, the forensic experts that were involved in matching up the DNA. All those people would have to be on board and lying about the results, because trust me, if they come out with that, I'm going to ask for the results and I want to see the paperwork. I want to see the link between when they did it, who did it, and what the results were, and get statements from them.
And also, if they send it to the FBI crime lab will initiate a report analyzing each item of evidence. If they go through Oklahoma State, it should be the same thing. And technically, the way it's done normally is when that comes back to the detective that's handling that case, even if it's 5 years from now. If it's not, it's 20 years from now and the person is retired, there should be a detective assigned to that case. Okay, I need you to do a supplemental report. There should be several supplements on file with that report on different things that occurred. Every time there's an action taken, for example, whenever he got acquitted, there should have been a supplemental file on that, because that piece of paperwork should have come back from the district attorney. The district attorney says, we're showing here is acquittal. Should be a report done on that and filed with the police department, because everything has to be tracked on paper. There has to be chronological timeline on anything that occurs in a criminal offense case. And that's what I would love to see, the paper trail.
Well, as a former sworn homicide detective expert in this field, would you not agree that the handling of this case by all agencies involved, from the local sheriff all the way up, is farcical? Well,
Just the fact that you can't get a report alone leads me to believe that there's mishandling. And from the knowledge that I have that John has provided for me, and from what I've seen, it looks to me like that it was a whitewash. They made up their mind who they wanted to hang with this crime, and they ran with it. And whenever people got brought up and different things got brought up, they didn't do follow-up on it. Well, when you're doing a comprehensive homicide investigation, any item that's brought up, even if they said, hey, I think the dog catcher did it because I seen him over there near the camp, the very least you would do is go interview that dog catcher, write a report of your interview and what he said and all that, because a month down the road, you may talk to him again and he may change his story. Once you get his story down, you've locked him in to his story. We get people to do written statements, sworn written statements. They sign their name to it. We do a synopsis on it, put it on file. Goes into evidence. Reason for that is, a month later, we find out something else, we pull that out and I go, he said he did this, he didn't do this, he did this. Why is that? He's lying to us. Then we go back and do a re-interview. That's how you solve crimes. You don't solve crimes by solving them as soon as you drive up and say, well, that knot looks like something that I seen in Boy Scout camp, and this guy knows how to tie him, so it's got to be him. You just don't do things.
Before we break again, I just want to say one more thing. A lot of people have said that, how dare I try to make a film about such a tragic event. I say to those people, then they shouldn't have made movies about World War I or II, or the Korean War, or the Vietnam War, or the Civil War, because this is where thousands were killed. Tragic, deaths. Even friendly fire people being killed, or soldiers being killed because of stray fire from their own people. It's tragic, but that's what they make films about. I mean, that's what they put out to the public about as entertainment. My situation, why I'm doing this, is simply because it's my last resort. Matter of fact, this little gathering here is my last resort that I can think of, is to get the public to wake up, call their senator or House of Representative, and ask questions. Why isn't an investigation being made about this? What are you all hiding? Why haven't you done anything about it? Those are the things that I'm looking for. So I'm in business to make films. I'm in business to make money. But so was Sid Wise, and who was the district attorney in Mays County at that time, and a news reporter. They had come together to write a book about this, and this reporter was being fed information that was not given to the public or to the other media. And they were going to write their book, and they were going to make a lot of money. But their motivation was out of greed. Mine isn't. And like I said, yeah, we're in business to make money, but that's not my main priority. My main priority is to show what happened, get the guilty people. Even though Carl Myers is dead, there's still those out there that protected him, and they're just as guilty. And you were talking about, putting it all on Gene Hart, how they did that. It's real easy if you want to try to convict someone, especially when you're in the position of the judge and the district attorney and everyone that was involved, to make up an entirely different story that you had nothing to do with and make it look like you're the only guilty party, in my case, they brought me in the court system, forced me to represent myself rather than by representation, and presented evidence that never took place. But they got police officers on the stand who perjured themselves. Terry Durbrow, who is now the sheriff in Ottawa County, perjured himself throughout the whole thing, and it was accepted because he was law enforcement. So it's really easy to get a conviction on someone that didn't have anything to do with the crime whatsoever. I spent 14 years in prison over what they did to me. And yes, I'm bitter. And yes, I do want revenge. I'm not trying to deny that. But I also realize that by getting my pound of flesh from these people, it's also going to help the parents and everyone that was friends and associates with the girls. So it's it's a win-win situation, not only for myself but also for the family members.
Well, being a parent of small children myself, on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank you for your efforts in trying to get to the bottom of this, and I'm sure that those little girls and their families will thank you. They deserve some peace.
Thank you very much. Let's break and we'll come back for one more segment. Thanks.